All right, the studio's just got a call in for number 3 on the worksheet 45-46. And so let's go ahead and do that. Now, again, we know better ways to solve this, right? This is a little 2x2 system, a little XY. You know how to solve it, add straight down, right? And I'm going to be done here pretty quickly. But what we want to do is learn another method. And another method is inverse matrices or augmented matrices. You pick. And back in my day, we used to do augmented matrices, and it's there because it's going to be more helpful on bigger problems like XYZ problems or WXYZ problems, right? Or even bigger. I mean, you'll get into linear algebra where you'll do 10 equations with 10 unknowns, and it's insane. So the way this goes is the first thing you want to do is rewrite this into a matrix, and so the matrix kind of goes like you had before, right? It has your X's, it has your Y's, but now it has your Z's also. I mean, sorry, your constants all in one matrix. So instead of two matrices, you just have one. That's it, just one matrix. And your job here is pretty simple. It's kind of like the same thing. You're just going to be multiplying and adding one row to the other, like you would here. You would just add these together. But you will do that all on the same matrix. So what I'm going to do now is usually my job would be, I would want a 1 right here in this highlighted. So I would divide this whole row by 3. But I don't want to do that just yet because the math is going to be really easy to add these two rows together. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take row 1 and I'm going to add it to row 2 and I'm going to stick that in row 2. So if I do that, that means row 1 is going to stay the same because I'm not really doing anything to it. It's not changing in this problem. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to row 2. So when I add that together, 3 minus 3 is 0, negative 5 minus 6, negative 6, and negative 6 minus 7, negative 14. You'll notice, 24. You'll notice that that is awfully similar to what you would have done in the systems. You've just kind of dropped the x's and y's, which makes your life kind of nice. Now, it would be really, really nice to have this be a 1. In order to do that, I just multiply, or divide in this case, everybody by negative 6, or multiply by 1/6. And if I do that, my matrix would look like 3, negative 5, negative 17, 0, 1, 4. Oops, it's a 17. 0, 1, 4. Now, if you remember what we did, this was called the x's, this was called the y's, and this was the answers, the constants. So this right here represents y equals 4. You can read it right off. There's 0 x's and 1 y equals 4. I know y is 4, right? Now that is called, almost called, row echelon form. Row echelon form is when you have 1s on the diagonal. So that's where I really need to make this a 1. So you have 1s on the diagonal and you have 0s below it. That's called row echelon form because you can get the answer. And now that I know y is 4, I could plug it into the other one and I could tell you what x is. Reduced, so we would call that row echelon form. Well, actually, let me complete it. I'll divide everything by 3 on this top column. And so I'd have 1, and I'd have negative 5/3, and I'd have negative 17/3. Not the prettiest numbers. 0, 1, 4. And this is called row echelon form. Right? That's called row echelon form because it claims that you should be able to solve, right? Because if you know y is 4, you should be able to plug it in knowing x minus 5/3 of a y equals negative 17/3. You should be able to figure out what x is. Now, reduced row echelon form goes one step farther. It says, hey, look, change that to a 0 so I know what x and y are. So I would have to multiply by 5/3. So I will multiply row 2 by 5/3, so, and then add it to row 1 and stick it in row 1. So that's what I'm going to do. So here you go. This row would not change now because it's the multiplier, but the other row would. 0 times 5/3 would be 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 times 5/3 is 5/3 minus 5/3 is 0. And here's the gross one. 4 times 5/3 is 20/3 minus 17/3 is 3/3 or 1. And now what is so nice about this? You can read it straight off as an answer. You can say, hey, look, this says, really it says 1x plus no y's equals 1, or what most people would call x equals 1. And this one says y is 4. And there you go. your answers to number 3 with matrices, and these are called augmented matrices. This one is row echelon form. This is reduced row echelon form. And take a look at your calculator if you've been messing around, because it would be really helpful. And maybe I'll show you. Maybe I'll show you in the next video. I can show you how to do that right on your calculator. All right. Have fun. Stay happy.